Hi friends, this is Hannah from Handmade by Design, and I'm so glad you're here. Today I'm making a puffy bunny and carrot garden. I'm using 2 bunnies from the Dollar Tree store, bubble wrap, E6000 spray adhesive, scissors, some disposable covers for my work area, and a paint marker. I also used 5-inch gift boxes from the Dollar Tree, floral foam, moss, flowers, greenery, material, scissors, poster board, and a fence that I bought at the thrift store that is 26 inches long. If you don't have a fence, you can use any kind of a wooden structure, actually any size that you like. I used 2 bunnies. And if you make a smaller structure, you can use 1 bunny. So I used 2 bunnies, and I covered my bunnies with bubble wrap. So I took 2 layers of bubble wrap, and I added a spritz of adhesive to the bubble wrap. And then I added my bunnies one at a time on top of the bubble wrap. And using a colored marker, I outlined the bunnies, and when I did this, I pressed lightly so that I didn't pop any of the bubbles. And I was a little bit worried. I wasn't sure how this bubble wrap was going to work, but I didn't have any polyfill, so I thought I'd give it a try, and I was really happy with it. The bubble wrap worked just perfectly, and I'm going to be using it in more projects. I cut the bubble wrap out, and then I placed it on top of the bunny, and I added plastic pieces under my workspace again because I'm going to be using the spray adhesive. And I took the spray adhesive and spritzed it across each bunny. And I added the bubble wrap. And you do have a little bit of time to work with this before it dries. So you'll have plenty of time to position the bubble wrap how you want it on your bunny. Next, I chose the material I was going to use, and I also chose the direction of the material that I wanted the bunnies to go in. I wanted my stripes to go straight up and down. And with a pencil, I went all around the bunny, and I traced the bunny about 1 inch larger than the actual bunny. I cut off the material to make it easier to work with, and I cut out the bunnies. I saved the material on the sides because I'm going to be using those to make ribbons and flowers. I put the material face down and added the bunny with the bubble wrap face down. And then with scissors, I went all around the bunny and I cut little slits because this is a very curvy bunny. And this is the best way for the material to lay flat against the back of the board. So I did about 1/3 of the bottom of the bunny, and then I raised the bunny up and pulled it taut from the top so there would be no wrinkles from the top to the bottom. And I pulled not too hard, but just taut enough to keep the wrinkles out. And I glued the top of each bunny ear, and from there I finished gluing the remaining 2/3 of the bunny, of the material of the bunny, and it turned out so cute. Just take your time, cut the slits, and your bunny will really come out just adorable. And this is what the bunny should look like. I then cut 2 strips of material from the leftover pieces on either side of the bunnies. One strip I'm going to use for a ribbon, and another strip I'm going to make a flower out of. And this ribbon, this material I could tear, which worked out great because I frayed the material around the edges on both ribbons. After fraying the ribbon, I set them aside and I added a black and white gross grain ribbon from the Dollar Tree, tied it around the neck of the bunny, and I made a simple fingertip bow. Any of the material that was a little bit loose got tightened up when I added this ribbon around the neck of the bunny. Once I was happy with the gross grain bow, I made a fingertip bow with the material. And I glued that onto the black and white ribbon. Next, I took the second piece of fabric and I'm going to make a flower. You can actually sew this. You just sew the bottom of the material and pull the thread tightly, but I did it with the glue gun. So I made a little accordion shape all along the bottom of the ribbon using my hot glue gun and very carefully folding it so that it's all even and it's all in an accordion shape. I'm not going to speed the tape up or leave any part of this out so that you can see exactly what I did to make the fabric ribbon. Just take your time and make sure that you don't burn yourself. Use the finger protectors if you need to. My glue gun has a low temperature setting, so that made it a lot easier for me to work with the hot glue on the material. Once the material is all glued together in an accordion shape, you just pull it into a circle, glue the circle together, and the flower does have hot glue showing in the center, so you'll have to cover it with something. And I chose to cover mine with buttons. So I also used black buttons and pink buttons on this project. I glued the flower to the ear of the bunny, and then I glued a black button that was large enough to cover the glue in the center of the flower. And I added a pink button on top of the black button. And then I added a separate black button on top of the pink ribbon at the neck of the bunny. And it turned out so adorable. I'm in love with these bunnies. They're just precious. And there you go. This is what the bunnies should look like. Next, I used leftover poster board. I use poster board a lot to cover my workspace, and when it gets too grungy to use, I set it aside and use it for projects like this. There's always something that you can use extra poster board for. So I decided how large I wanted my carrots to be, and I cut 2 pieces the same size out of the poster board. Then I rolled up the poster board into a cone, the size that I wanted my carrot to be. And then I added hot glue to the seam to close the cone. And then I cut the top of the cone straight across the size that I wanted the carrot to be, the height that I wanted the carrot to be. But I cut it straight across and cut off that extra piece of poster board so that it was cut straight across on top of the carrot. Next, I cut fabric to fit each cone, and I added a bead of glue to the cone at the seam, and I added a bead of glue to the fabric, and I folded the fabric over so that there would be no frayed edges. And then I added the seam onto the glued piece of fabric. And I covered the rest of the carrot, and I folded the material over again so that there would be no frayed edges showing. And I added another bead of hot glue along the seam and glued the seams together so that there's a nice straight seam with no ragged edges showing on the carrot. You might have to add an extra bead of glue just to bring both of those seams together and lay them flat. I keep the extra piece of material on top, and I fold it in and carefully work it around so that it looks puffy on the top. And I glue a little piece at a time inside of the carrot so that so the material covers the top, but it also gives the appearance of the carrot being puffy on the top. I cut a slit in the material, and then I add some greenery that I had in my stash that I thought looked great on the carrots. It was fern, but it looked really cute. The greenery looked like carrot tops to me, so I added that to the top of the carrots. I just glued it in the top where I cut the slit. I inserted it there in the material. And then I made a fingertip bow with the frayed edges, and I glued that to the front of each carrot. I made 2 carrots. So I made 2 bunnies and 2 carrots. If you notice, the material is slanted at a completely different angle. It's going at an angle where the bunnies, the material is going up and down. The material on the carrots is going at an angle. I took my fence and I painted it white. I just used acrylic craft paint, and I painted the front, the sides, and the back white. I then took the gift boxes from the Dollar Tree store. I didn't have any wooden boxes, so I used the cardboard boxes. And I cut the boxes in half. After I measured the centers, and I used the boxes to make a garden. I just used scissors to cut the boxes, and they were really easy to cut. I was also really happy to use up some of my Christmas stash without having to go buy something new. And these they worked great. Probably not as wonderful as the wooden boxes, but they did the job. Once I had all of the boxes cut, I glued them all together in a line. And it's amazing, they were just the perfect size to make the garden box. Necessity is really the mother of invention when we're making our crafts. We can find all sorts of things to do with the boxes and things that we have left over from other projects. That's part of the fun of it for me. I know it must be for you too. So I glue all the boxes together, and using the same acrylic paint, I give the boxes a coat of white paint. It only took 1 coat of paint to get coverage on the boxes. And then I glued the boxes to the picket fence. I added floral foam in between the box and the picket fence, and then I decided where my bunnies and my carrots were going to go, and I glued the bunnies and carrots onto the picket fence. Next, I added a combination of peonies and roses, and I bought these from Shein, Shein, and they were like $2.08 for each bush, and they really have quite a bit of flowers on each bundle, and they are a fantastic price. I buy a lot of my products from Shein. I buy from Oriental Traders. I buy from the Dollar Tree, Joann's, Michael's, and the Tablecloth Factory, Oriental Traders, AliExpress, anywhere where I can get my crafting materials at great prices. Amazon, and I shop all of the sales. So these beautiful flowers were a very good bargain. And I add them all the way across the bottom of my garden box. And then once they're arranged the way that I like them, I didn't get it on camera, but I added moss all along the bottom so that there were no holes and none of the foam showed. And it gave it a more realistic look with some of the moss peeking out on the sides. And then I used some long picks with white pips and intertwined them in with the bunnies. And this project is finished. We have a Puffy bunny garden. Isn't that adorable? Thank you so much for watching my video. If you liked the video, please hit the like button and subscribe and hit the notification button, and you'll be notified the next time that I make a video. And I hope this inspires you to make something beautiful. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.